Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my latest WrestleMania rebooking. Sorry for the late video, but you tried changing your car brakes on a hot day in Chicago, even though it was just cold as hell last week, and I'm pretty sure we're gonna have a blizzard tomorrow and a heat vortex of 107 by the
Don't give
weekend.
ideas. I don't want to have any more of this stupid custody battle between spring and summer.
It's supposed to be spring, but it's been winter and summer the last few days. So, yeah. Anyway, with that being said, let's go on and continuing on with my WrestleMania booking series. This week we are on WrestleMania 30 from 2014 in New Orleans. Um, sorry, I just got hot sauce in my eye
Yeah, how did you get hot sauce in your eye?
from my food, the spicy food I had earlier,
You don't even like spicy food.
to a certain extent. But anywho, so WrestleMania 30 in 2014 is considered by some to be actually rather pretty good WrestleMania. Um, of course, that's probably because they had to change several ideas and storylines going into the show because, as you all know, that was the year just a few months after CM Punk had walked out of WWE, which left me devastated because, of course, he is my favorite wrestler. He's my idol. And I was one of them people that held up hope. He's going to come back. He's going to come back. He's going to come back. It took 10 years, but he finally came home. But I was one of those people that was okay. He's gonna if he doesn't show up now, he's not gonna show up at all. And then WrestleMania came along, and I still had that small glimmer of hope. He's gonna show up. He's gonna show up. He's gonna come back. He did not. And as I said, it took him 10 years to finally come back home. But I think that if they had went with the original card that they had planned before he walked out, I don't think WrestleMania 30 would have been as memorable as it was after they switched up the card. Because as you all know, this was during Daniel Bryan's Yes movement, where he was probably the most popular superstar on the roster at the time. And according to the original card that they had planned for WrestleMania, the main event was supposed to be one-on-one Randy Orton and Batista. Triple H was supposed to face CM Punk before he walked out. Daniel Bryan was going to face Sheamus randomly as hell in their what would have been their third WrestleMania match together. There was also Roman Reigns challenging his Shield partner Dean Ambrose for the United States title, and for whatever the hell reason, they had Kane versus the Big Show, and I don't think anybody wanted to see that anymore at this year, at this point in time, let alone at WrestleMania. So I have no idea why the hell they had that booked. But yes, of course, uh, CM Punk walked out on WWE the day after the Royal Rumble. And then from there, pretty much the whole timeline shifted to what we got. And yeah, so hi. Say hi to Dennis, everybody.
I named them.
Yeah. So anyway, let's talk about what we actually WWE gave us that year for WrestleMania. Starting off on the pre-show, they had a four-team Fatal 4-Way match for the tag team titles. It was the Usos, I believe it was the Usos successfully defending against, I want to say, the Real Americans, Ryback and Curtis Axel, and I want to say it was, I honestly forgot, to be honest. It's been so long. So going on to the main card, the first match was Triple H versus Daniel Bryan, where the winner would enter the main event, making it a triple threat match. Of course, everybody wanted Daniel Bryan in the main event to begin with, but of course they had to go through loops and everything because that he was not obviously in their original plans for the main event at WrestleMania, but due to his overwhelmingly popularity he got in the last few months, the crowd wanted him there and they had no choice but to give him into that main event. So of course they had to have him face Triple H first, and whoever won would get inserted to the main event. And of course Daniel Bryan won. There you go. Followed by that, there was a six-man tag team match in which Kane and the New Age Outlaws took on the Shield, and the Shield won in probably like less than like 5 minutes. It was basically a squash. Yeah, Kane and the New Age Outlaws at WrestleMania in 2014. Not really a good idea, especially for what is actually the Shield's last match as a trio at WrestleMania. Even though Road Dogg was one of my favorites growing up during the Attitude Era, 2014 just probably was not the right time and place for that. After that, they had the very first Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal, which of course, as you know, was won by Cesaro. This was probably the best and maybe most
Adding
star
commentary.
packed. Well, you want to watch it too?
You're adding commentary.
You're adding commentary. It's okay. It's okay. Add all the commentary you want. This is probably the most stacked Andre the Giant Battle Royal because it was still a fresh idea. And I'm probably thinking they only did it because they had nothing else for any of the other main eventers and upper mid cards at the time. So it pretty much just stuck everybody in this first ever Andre Battle Royal. And it was won by Cesaro, who, as you know, body slammed the Big Show out of the ring. Would the Andre the Giant Battle Royal continue to have that prestige the following years? Probably not, because it's pretty much since then become pretty much a jobber fest, pretty much for all the lower guys who, when you got really nothing enough to do for you, so let's just stick you all in the battle royal. And now, as you know, it's not even on WrestleMania anymore.
Do you want your
Now
sister?
it's more like a SmackDown before WrestleMania kind of theme. So yeah. Followed by that was Bray Wyatt versus John Cena. Of course, John Cena won. Not many people were happy about that because they wanted Bray Wyatt to win. This was during the whole Super Cena era. Of course, this is during the time when, of course, I was being a huge John Cena troll and just talking shit about him. But, that's obviously changed. But yeah, a lot of people were disappointed that Bray Wyatt did not win the match. He did have a very good entrance when the man played his theme song live to the ring, which was pretty awesome, for that. Up next was one of the most shocking moments in WrestleMania history. Brock Lesnar defeating The Undertaker and ending his streak at 21-1. I was one of the many, many people who could not believe what the hell happened. I remember watching this live on pay per view, and I legit thought, like there was a botch. Like maybe Undertaker forgot to kick out, maybe he got like knocked out or got a concussion and forgot to kick out or something. But no, like I'm sure, like everybody else watching live, they probably thought, wait, is this really happening? Did the streak just really break? And then, yeah, just like that, it was over. The streak had come to an end. Do I think Brock Lesnar should have been the one to end the streak? Honestly, probably not. I think that if Undertaker were to have his streak beaten, I think it should have happened a couple years later when he obviously, as you know, lost to Roman Reigns a couple years later at WrestleMania. That right there should have been when the streak ended. But we'll talk about that when we get to that WrestleMania in pretty soon. So yeah, Undertaker lost. The streak was ended in the hands of Brock Lesnar, who quite frankly didn't really need it. But then again, I could kind of see why he got it because he had pretty much been on the losing end of a few big matches since his return a couple years prior. He lost to John Cena, to Triple H. I guess they were trying to build him back up, and as you saw that summer, he pretty much obliterated John Cena to win the WWE title at SummerSlam in one of the most surprising squash matches that there's ever been. Up next was a Divas Open Invitational. It was AJ Lee pretty much defending the title, her Divas Championship against pretty much every woman on the roster. I'm not going to name them all because there was like 14, 15 women in that match. Not really the best women's match in WrestleMania history, let alone wrestling history at all. A lot of these workers in this match were really not that good, and that's no disrespect to any of them. Just some of them probably had no business being on a WrestleMania card, let alone getting a women's title match. But, I guess it was the big 30. They probably wanted to get as many names on the card as they could because it's the WrestleMania 30. It's the 30th WrestleMania. So I can understand why they kind of wanted to get everybody on the card as much as they could. But they probably could have done this in a better way, which I will get to in a few moments. But yeah, AJ Lee won the match by submission. I don't remember who the hell he made tap out. And then, as we all know, the following night on Monday Night Raw, she lost the Divas Championship to one of my personal favorites, Paige, who made her debut the following night. So yeah, and then we have the main event. It was a triple threat match for the WWE title. Randy Orton defending against Batista and Daniel Bryan, who had won the first match earlier that night. So, and of course, as you all know, Daniel Bryan won, pretty much defeating 99% of evolution in one night. Daniel Bryan won, and WrestleMania was born. Everyone got what they asked for. Daniel Bryan in the main event of WrestleMania, winning the WWE Championship. All was right in the world. And yes, again, I really, really thought CM Punk was going to come out there in the main event to help Daniel Bryan, who at one point was getting his ass kicked by Batista and Randy Orton. The crowd was chanting loud as hell for CM Punk. Nothing obviously came of that. So, yeah. So it was for being the 30th WrestleMania. It was actually pretty short with only 7 matches, but then again, they had pretty much the entire roster in the Andre Battle Royal. So yeah, so that's what WWE gave us. Now let's go ahead and take a look at how I would have booked WrestleMania 30. Actually, as a matter of fact, booked this start fantasy booked this one. I want to say at the beginning of the year, like mid-January, before the whole CM Punk walkout thing. So, of course, my booking is reflecting what I booked at that time. I don't usually rebook what I make, in case like something happens, like for example, the CM Punk walkout. I didn't, okay, he's gone. Let me go rechange my WrestleMania card and readjust it to what's going on now. Next side, what I tend to do is I'll book it and I'll leave it at that. I don't, like I said, I don't go back and redo it because of what's going on. I just stick by with what I looked at that current time when I did, which will also will make more sense as you continue this series on, especially with WrestleMania 36, the pandemic WrestleMania. But like I said, we'll get to that when we get to that. So as I said, I booked this at maybe beginning middle of January. So we're gonna go with what I said at that time. Obviously, CM Punk was still in the company, so yeah. So we're gonna kick things off on the pre-show with a good old-fashioned battle royal, and it's just regular battle royal. Whoever is not competing on the main card of the show is obviously gonna be in the battle royal. I'm still gonna give the win to Cesaro to give him that little mini push that he somewhat got after this. So there's that. Going on to the main card, we're kicking things off with my personal favorite, a multi-man ladder match, because as you know, as you've been watching these videos, my favorite match is the ladder match, especially a good old-fashioned multi-man ladder match. I love them. And like I said before, pretty much you're going to have one of these on every single of these WrestleManias that I'm doing. So hopefully you don't get too bored or tired of it. But yeah. But this would be a different kind of ladder match. I would be bringing back a concept that I introduced a couple years prior at WrestleMania 27. I am bringing it back. It's called the All Star Number One Contender Ladder Match, in which I have 10 superstars, all 10 of the biggest superstars at the time, as a matter of fact, all competing in a number one contenders ladder match. Whoever won would get a number one contenders match. Would become number one contender for the WWE title and would face the champion at the following month's pay-per-view, which in this case I believe was Extreme Rules. So in this match we have Ryback, Kane, Big Show, Sheamus, Rey Mysterio, The Miz, Dolph Ziggler, Kofi Kingston, Big E, who was the Intercontinental Champion at the time, and Alberto Del Rio. Of course, those are probably the 10 biggest names who were probably featured in the Andre Battle Royal originally. So I decided to just stick them all in one big ladder match and see who would come out as the number one contender. I don't think I ever really picked who I would go to win this match. So going off of the participants, and we'll go on in the main event of my WrestleMania, I'll probably go ahead and give the win to, eh, let's go with Dolph Ziggler. What the hell? Why not? Following by that, we would have the tag team championships, the New Age Outlaws defending against the Usos. Now, of course, the Usos defeated the New Age Outlaws for the tag team titles. I believe it was a month prior at Elimination Chamber. I personally think they should have kept that match for WrestleMania because it was the Usos' first time winning the tag team title, so it would have been not only just a special occasion for winning their first tag team titles, but I think it would have been better to have it as a WrestleMania moment for them to finally win the tag team titles at WrestleMania. So I think that's what they probably should have done. I'm sure it probably wouldn't have been too much of a competitive match because, of course, 2014 New Age Outlaws probably hit their prime, what, 1999, 98. So it probably wouldn't have been the best tag team match of all time, but it would have served its purpose, which would have been to give the Usos their first, not only WrestleMania moment, but their first tag, now of many tag team title championships. Up next, we have what many people thought was actually going to happen is Cody Rhodes versus Goldust. Of course, a lot of people thought that Cody Rhodes was going to turn heel on his brother Goldust, lead to a matchup between them, and of course, they wanted it to happen so like really bad between the two of them. Of course, Vince McMahon didn't care for the idea. He didn't think people wanted to see brother versus brother or whatever. He didn't understand why they would go at it. But in this timeline, Cody Rhodes does turn heel and he challenges his brother Goldust at WrestleMania, getting the win because obviously Goldust was probably past his prime at this point. Cody Rhodes was just finally getting that upper mid card push that he deserved at the time because he had that they just got off. They had all that momentum coming off that huge feud with the Shield in which they had to get their jobs back and everything. So I think this would have helped Cody get that momentum going towards Money in the Bank in the summer and all that. So I'm going to give the win, obviously, to Cody Rhodes. Up next is a match that, again, took place a little bit earlier, but I really, really believe, and I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one to believe this match should have happened at WrestleMania. Instead, it happened at Elimination Chamber, and that is a six-man tag team match between The Shield and the Wyatt family. Of course, these two factions were the biggest things in WWE at the time, and many people were just waiting for them to go at it, 3 on 3. And I remember watching the Elimination Chamber pay per view when this match happened, and the whole crowd was chanting "Holy shit" before the match even started. If I was in charge, what I would have done, stick that exact same match and everything, but instead I would have it at WrestleMania. So everything that happened at Elimination Chamber happens instead at WrestleMania. I felt that's what should have happened, and like I said, I'm sure many people think the same thing. But of course, they went and pulled the trigger on that way early. They fed Bray Wyatt to John Cena, and the Shield got stuck facing Kane and the New Age Outlaws. You tell me which one probably would have been better. So yeah, of course I'm gonna and say even if we are keeping that match from Elimination Chamber and just moving it to WrestleMania, we're gonna keep the same outcome and everything, same matchup. The Wyatt family gets the wins, which would so because at this time I remember they were trying to say there was like some conflict within the Shield. Everyone thought that they were going to break up and that Dean Ambrose would be the one to turn on the Shield. And what this could have done is if they had the match with the Wyatt family that they had at Elimination Chamber, the Wyatts get the win, which will give people, okay, this is going to be the breaking point in which the Shield breaks up. Instead, they get stronger because, as you know, they went on to feud with Evolution right after this. So that would have, gave them the motivation, I guess, to, work shit out and get back, as the Shield and go on to have their feud with Evolution. So, so up next is a match that we've never gotten, at least I don't think they ever did in like OVW or something. But up next is Batista versus Brock Lesnar. One match the one dream match that we've never gotten, and I'm pretty sure both men in their prime would have probably gave us a way better match than the 2014 versions. But instead, they had Batista. Of course, they wanted him in the main event, and I can see why because they're probably trying to capitalize off his growing popularity as a Hollywood star, especially with the Marvel movie Guardians of the Galaxy coming out that year. Of course, Batista was in it, so I can see why they were trying to push him to be a top guy again. But yeah, I really think that they should have went and did Batista versus Brock Lesnar, but we never got that match for whatever reason. The stars weren't aligning. By the time Batista was becoming a big name, Brock Lesnar was already gone from WWE. And then by the time Brock Lesnar came back to WWE, Batista was already gone from WWE. So I can see that it's timelines and the stars never aligned for that. But I think if anything, this probably would have been the perfect time to have it. It probably would not have been the best match in either one of these men's careers, but I really, really think that was a huge missed opportunity to not have Batista versus Brock Lesnar WrestleMania, any pay per view. I mean, like I said, sometimes the most obvious answer is the best thing to do. and they could have had that match there. I think I would give the win to Brock Lesnar because at the time Batista was getting booed anyway because people wanted to see Daniel Bryan in the main event and not him. So he was getting booed anyway. This, of course, would lead to the reformation of Evolution the following night. I know Batista losing to Brock Lesnar would have pushed him more over the edge, making him more of a heel. Now, of course, this still keeps Brock Lesnar strong, even though he didn't really need it for his summer feud with John Cena later that year. Up next is a match that did take place at WrestleMania, but I'm also having it at mine, but for completely different reasons, and that is Triple H versus Daniel Bryan. Of course, in the original WrestleMania timeline that we got, Triple H and Daniel Bryan, they have their match to open up WrestleMania and to see who would go on to the main event. But in this timeline, it's a little bit different. It's just Daniel Bryan, wanting to exact revenge on Triple H for constantly screwing him and screwing him and screwing him over the winter months of not becoming WWE champion during his feud with Randy Orton. So they finally come to a head, at WrestleMania. I'm still going to give Daniel Bryan the win. It's just not really going towards the main event. It's just a standard one-on-one match between Triple H and Daniel Bryan. We can keep the same, match that they had in the original WrestleMania and keep it here. The only difference is it doesn't have main event implications. Up next is a match, as you recall, I said a few WrestleManias prior. There was so many times that I realistically think WWE could have had this match, and it is Undertaker versus John Cena. Again, it's probably I think the second time that I have booked this for a WrestleMania, and again, sometimes the most obvious answer is the best one. Of course, in this timeline, John Cena does not win the Royal Rumble or whatever. He loses his title match to Randy Orton at Royal Rumble like he did in real life. Instead, he doesn't win the Elimination Chamber either. So he wants to come out and, in order to get to WrestleMania, he wants to, as I said before, challenge for the next best thing, which, of course, at this point in time was the streak. And sometimes the streak felt like it was a bigger theme, bigger deal than the actual title match, the main event. So I think, again, John Cena could have challenged The Undertaker for that streak match at WrestleMania. No, actually, this is the third time I thought about it because they could have done it at WrestleMania 25. They could have done it at WrestleMania 27. And they could have done it again here at WrestleMania 30. And I promise you, this is not the last time that I'm going to book this match where it could have happened. I'm not just saying, okay, this is book it just to book it. I feel like realistically, they probably could have done it at this year, along with the other two that I stated. It could have been done, but they decided to not do it, and instead they did do it at WrestleMania a couple years later, but it was not the spectacle or amazing match that everyone thought it would be. So again, 2014, John Cena could still pretty go. Undertaker was coming off his a streak of amazing matches at WrestleMania, and I think he probably could have got in one more out of John Cena. So again, they could have done this match right here at WrestleMania, but they chose not to. They had Undertaker lose the streak to Brock Lesnar, and John Cena went on to defeat Bray Wyatt. But yeah, of course, I'm gonna give the win to the Undertaker to keep his streak going. And there you have it. So up next, we have the Divas Championship. I would not do a open invitation like how they did. Instead, I would keep AJ Lee one-on-one defending the title against Naomi, who I believe she was somewhat feuding with at the time because she dealing with her gave her an eye injury or something, and she fought Cameron at the previous pay-per-view Elimination Chamber. So I really thought they were gonna go one-on-one at WrestleMania, but instead they had the whole 14, 15 women open invitational. In this case, since it is WrestleMania 30, you want to feature as many as you can. We're gonna make this a lumberjill match, which all the women who were, in the original match, is there as lumberjills. But I think even with that stipulation, I think AJ and Naomi could have put on a pretty good wrestling match. Of course, I'm gonna give the win to AJ Lee because this is where Bicy comes in sometimes. Because of course, I always gotta go for my favorites. I'll give AJ Lee the win, but I will still keep what happens after WrestleMania on Raw. Paige's debut. I will still keep that in this timeline. So then we go on to our main event. If Daniel Bryan is busy elsewhere and Batista is busy elsewhere, That leaves Randy Orton to defend the WWE title against CM Punk because, as I said, in this timeline, CM Punk does not walk out of the WWE after the Royal Rumble. Like I said, plus I booked this before the whole walkout happened. So yeah, in this timeline, CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble from the number one spot, and it comes down to him and Daniel Bryan. Of course, CM Punk barely manages to win, and the match that he could have had the match with Kane at Elimination Chamber that they wanted to have, which would then lead. Of course, he had probably like put his number one contendership on the line. He defeats Kane, which makes his WWE Championship match with Randy Orton official for WrestleMania. I remember at the time thinking, do I really want to do this match? Because they just had a match at WrestleMania 27 a couple years prior to this. Like, they really want to repeat the same match again? Because I feel if you're repeating a match at WrestleMania that happened already, at another WrestleMania, sometimes I think it's either one of two reasons. Either because it really, really needs to happen. For example, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, and Triple H. Or maybe because you got nothing else going for these guys, so let's just say stick them together. And I kind of felt this was falling into that latter category. But at the same time, you know what? It's CM Punk. He's my favorite. It was the opportunity was right there for him to enter that Royal Rumble at number one, like he did in real life, and just I would have had him just barely make it to the end and eliminate Batista. Did I say Daniel Bryan earlier? I meant to say Batista. Eliminate Batista at the very, very end, making everyone a happy place. And maybe at this point, CM Punk does not walk out at WrestleMania, wins the WWE title in the main event, defeating Randy Orton. This would then lead to pretty much a rematch of the series that CM Punk and Daniel Bryan had a couple years prior in 2012, except this time CM Punk would be the heel and Daniel Bryan would be the face. This would lead to a main event at SummerSlam in which Daniel Bryan finally wins the WWE title. I mean, people wanted Randy Orton to face Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. I can understand it, but I feel like they pretty much overkilled it a little bit because they had to cash in at SummerSlam, in which Randy Orton cashed in his money in the bank, and then he faced Daniel Bryan like 3 or 4 more times in the next 4 pay-per-views, and Daniel Bryan kept getting screwed over and screwed over and screwed over. And I was surprised people weren't complaining. Okay, they did this match so many times. Why are they gonna do it again at WrestleMania? Which I'm honestly surprised by that because a lot nowadays people get tired of seeing the same two superstars compete in a match over and over and over and over and over again. So I am really genuinely surprised that they did not have that to say about Randy Orton and Daniel Bryan having about 5 matches together on pay-per-view during the summer and then having faced each other again in the main event of WrestleMania. That really surprised the hell out of me. But yeah, we got what we got, and I really, like I said, some of these WrestleManias, including the more newer, the more recent ones, I will be honest, I do use a lot of bias towards my favorite wrestlers, especially on the women's side, which we will get to a certain female superstar who was one of my personal favorites. We'll get to that one when we get to that one during WrestleMania 39. But of course, you probably know who it is. It is Tegan Knox. And by the way, I am happy to say that I've got 2 front row tickets to a local wrestling, one of those independent wrestling leagues. I think it's called Second Wrestling. They will be here in Chicago next month, and Tegan Knox will be competing at that event. And as soon as they announced it, I was like, I gotta go. I have to go. I have never seen Tegan Knox live in person. She's obviously, as you know, one of my personal favorites and one of my superstars that I support the most. And then when the tickets went on sale, I got them right away, and I got front row seats, which are not even expensive, like $20 each. So I will be there next month, front row, to give my support to one of my all-time favorites, who I believe these days, like I said, one of the most underutilized, underappreciated, um, Tegan Knox. I will be there to give the girl with the shiniest wizard my biggest support. So yeah, say what you want about her. She has all my support in the world. So yeah. With that being said, there you have it. This is WrestleMania 30. What did you think? What was better? Did you like what WWE gave us? Did you like what I gave you better? What would you have done differently? Uh, what would you have changed? Would you have left it how it is? Of course, I like to hear your comments and feedback, positive or negative. Hey, I like to hear it. Um, so yeah, so there's another WrestleMania literally in the book because yes, I do keep these written down in my notes. Nerd. So yeah. So next time I will see you next week for our next WrestleMania rebooking. Until then, remember if you haven't asked me about it, chances are I am going to talk about it anyway.